Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of your Adrenal Fix, the first edition of 2018. Wow, we're really here. Second day of the year. Hope you guys had a wonderful holiday, and you had, you indulged and you got that out of your system. You didn't go too crazy. You set some realistic New Year's resolutions, and you're ready to get your health back this year. And so you guys voted on this today, and the topic of today's Adrenal Fix conversation is going to be adrenal fatigue supplements. I give you a list of different options to vote for, and this is what you guys voted on. And I think you're going to be a little disappointed with my approach to supplements, because I look at it in terms of categories. I don't look at it as the traditional medical model where if you have high blood pressure, you take a blood pressure pill to lower it. If you have high glucose, you take a insulin or metformin or something to lower it. If you have anxiety, you take something to lower it. If you have low blood pressure, you take something to make it higher. To me, that's very, very reductionistic, and you're not going to solve the whole problem by just giving a this for that type of protocol. And so it is with supplements as well. If you're just going to take a supplement for this or a supplement for that, then you are not going to fix the problem, and you're sort of like Jack and the Beanstalk, going to bed, throwing the beanstalk, planning it, hoping that you're going to have a pot of gold in the morning, climb that beanstalk, and you don't have to do your due diligence, and it just doesn't work that way. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't triage. Meaning, I say if you went to the hospital, knock on wood, and you broke your arm with a really nasty gash and there was the bone sticking out and there was bleeding and you were in immense pain, you triage. You go there, they give you painkillers, they check your vitals, they stitch you up, they make sure you don't lose too much blood. But what do? They rush you off to the operation room, and they perform surgery. And that's the analogy I'd use in terms of you can take a this for that supplement for triaging, for taking something that will help you immediately while you're in this dire pain or you're in this really acute like problem. You have a headache, you have exhaustion, you have fatigue, you have uncontrollable heart rate, whatever it may be. You're trying to do it a natural route. But at the end of the day, you got to go and fix the problem. And I always know when I see someone who joins this group and says, "What's the best supplement for adrenal fatigue?" It's like, I got to do a video on that, because there's just not one supplement that's the best supplement, and it really depends on where you are. You may have so many different things going on that the best thing to do is to take less supplements, actually. And that's the first thing. I actually, it was Cheryl. I wanted to wish Cheryl a happy New Year, but she told me I should coin it, and what I did was stress footprint. And so I actually got that trademarked, stress footprint. And what that basically means is you want to lower your stress footprint. You want to try to minimize all the stimulation that are coming at you that you have to process, because that's putting you into overwhelm. You got enough to deal with between being exhausted and getting ready and getting out of bed and having your day ahead of you and being able to feed the kids, or take care and clean the home, or go out and earn an income. And whatever it is, you got enough stuff to do. And the frustrating part, like I said, is going on the internet and finding out, oh, I heard this supplement is best for adrenal fatigue, or my doctor says there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue, or I read somewhere else that this supplement, not that supplement, is the best one for adrenal fatigue. So which one is it? So hopefully bringing a little clarity to you. But the first thing is lower your stress footprint. What can you be doing less of? What are you taking that is ridiculous and redundant? I know a lot of you, like, you open up your cupboard and there's pounds of miles of supplements, and because you heard this one was good, that one was good, this one was good, that one was good, and you're taking redundant stuff. You're taking a vitamin A for this, but then your multivitamin has vitamin A, and then you're taking a beta carotene, and there's an antioxidant supplement, and then there's all these things, and it's like they're all the same thing, but yet they're you're still lousy. You still feel lousy. You still feel tired. You have expensive urine, and you're not getting to the problem. So the first thing I would say say is stress footprint. Lower your stress footprint. What can you be doing less of? What supplements do you really need to be doing? And you know, one of my mission statements, aside from fixing your metabolism, quadrupling your energy, and transforming your life, those are my main three, is I want to bring back an awareness of food, because the food here in the US everywhere is really junk food. It's junk food. Junk food isn't just going to McDonald's or getting, the 7-Eleven and opening up a packaged chip. Junk food is the food that you see in what Dr. Marshall used to call the mausoleums, the supermarkets, the dead foods. All those foods are packaged, and there's white death in there. There's white flour, enriched rock iron flour. There is sugar in there, and the pounds of sugar we eat every year per person is astronomical. It's like 160 pounds per person of sugar that we drink, white sugar. So white death is a big thing. But my mission statement is to be able to bring back the quality of good quality food. Imagine if you were inhabiting another planet and you were to learn that planet's food was contaminated, and every time you ate it you had to do a certain process, whether it was steam the food, or you had to put it through a green laser, or you had to do something to that food. That's how you got to think of every little thing that you put in your mouth. I know it's a bit neurotic, but foods nowadays, like if you look at your foods, there's foods in there you can't even pronounce, and there's MSG in there, there's GMOs in there's pesticides, there's sprays. And I remember my friends used to think I was crazy when I wanted to eat things organic, and even stuff now organic you have to be a bit careful of. But the first adrenal fatigue supplement is lowering your stress footprint. The second adrenal fatigue supplement is scrutinizing your food and making sure you're eating proper foods. The foods that are, prepared, and they're not cooked at crazy amounts of heats, and they're not deep fried, and they're not using rancid oils, and they're not, when you go to the grocery store and you buy a bottle of olive oil and it's in a clear white bottle, you can guarantee that oil is already rancid. It has to be protected by a certain wavelength of light so that it doesn't hit it and rancify it. You have to buy proper oil. It's very, very important. So make sure you're not eating hydrogenated oils or even vegetable oils, because all of those oils are typically going to create a lot of problems with you. And making sure that your foods are really, really good mineral-based foods. Are they from a good, reputable source where they were planted, and maybe you got to pay a little bit extra. But I always love that saying: instead of wondering why good quality food costs so much, why don't you wonder why crappy food costs so little? I mean, really, why does crappy food cost so little? So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to get into the habit of knowing what your pH is every morning. These are called pH strips. And looking at your pH will give you an idea on what your mineral balance is. Because aside from healthy foods, whether they're raw or they're really great planted foods, you plant your own foods, or they're fermented foods, or you drink kefir, you got to know what your pH balance is, because at the end of the day, you're depleted of minerals. And if there is one supplement above any other supplement, is minerals. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can get your minerals. I like coral minerals. There are a lot of different sources that you will get your minerals from. But the next pitfall I want you to be aware of is all of the add-ins or toxic tag-alongs or excipients or flow-through agents that they put in there. I always said, imagine I'm making iced tea for myself and I'm stirring it up and it starts to clump in my 8 little ounce bottle. What's it going to do in a big vat? It's going to clump up. So companies put magnesium stearic or stearic acid or silicone dioxide or all of these other junky stuff that ultimately in the beginning is not a problem for your cells, because your cells are starved. They want that nutrient. It's with magnesium. Give me some magnesium. But oh, what's that magnesium stearic? And that's going to ultimately toxify you even further and not give you the results that you want. And it's actually going to make it worse than had you not taken it at all. And a little secret is these excipients and tag-alongs were meant for part-time use with pharmaceutical prescriptions, but they weren't meant for being put in supplements that were meant to be, that supplements weren't meant to be used forever either. And supplements are used over and over and over, years and years and years and years, and then you'll find out about research studies where magnesium stearic is not that problematic. But the problem is they use the magnesium stearic in its natural source. They didn't use it in its isolated source, and when it's isolated, its potency is much stronger, and it can create a huge amount of problems. Not to mention MSG. MSG is formic acid and formaldehyde by a methyl bond together, which all of that is going to create. Formaldehyde and formic acid is that what red ants use to give you that pain, and the alcohol bond is really difficult on our body to break down. There's a lot of problems with that. So taking your pH every morning and aiming for 6.6 to 7.0, and if you're not there, getting more minerals on board. And if you're too high, potentially looking at what's going on, from an inflammatory standpoint that's causing you to make more ammonia, or if you're using some unhealthy nutrients as well. I'd look to the mitochondria. I know a lot of people asked about if the pH levels are high, is that problematic too? It is problematic too. It tells me that your mitochondria are not doing very well. If your mitochondria are not doing very well, then I'm going to be looking at a major supplement called B-Max. My guess is that you guys have depleted your natural B sources. One of the B vitamins that I like is this one right here. It's called B-Max. And it is in a liquid form. It's nano-derived. It's in a probiotic. I think it's 96% of B vitamins on the market are coal tar resin. Coal tar resin, meaning it's synthetic, and it's going to give you a lot of problems. The good thing about this, it's in an N-chain formed N-chain form, which means it's already in its methylated form. Your body doesn't have to scratch its head saying, what is that? And waste a lot of energy to make that. And it's so important for that B vitamin to help with mitochondrial health, because those are the cofactors of that Krebs cycle. Other things that we really need for that mitochondria is NADH and CoQ10. Now, the CoQ10, new research is showing that two forms, the ubiquinone and ubiquinol, both of them are supposed to be supportive for that hydrogen transfer in the electron transport chain, or basically AKA making energy. So if you can get it in the two different forms, the ubiquinone and the ubiquinol, that's going to help with your ability to make ATP. However, I'm really going to want you to get that with some DHLA, which is the reduced alpha-lipoic acid, which is an amazing powerhouse antioxidant that can pretty much fight any free radical no matter where it is. However, if you use the CoQ10 without DHLA, then the DHLA the CoQ10 is going to be used up as an antioxidant, and it's not going to be able to be used for its energy production in that ATP, that first page. I know I'm talking gibberish to you, but just basically think about antioxidants are very, very important for reducing inflammation. One of the most important things that I would tell you to look at is getting good quality DHA. DHA is at minimal amounts as we get older, and our body, as we get junky oils, loses its ability to convert EPA into DHA, and that's why we see a lot of brain fog. My suggestion is to be able to get a good high quality DHA, and about 1/4 to a half a teaspoon once or twice a day is really going to keep the doctor away. And really avoiding those junk oils, really important, especially for females. But when you're getting good quality oils and you're repairing your cell membranes, and you're using CoQ10 and DHA-LA together, you start getting some really powerful anti-inflammatory substances. But the next thing I would tell you to look at is bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids are really shown to be very helpful for excitotoxicity. So I've talked about this before, where you have runaway inflammation that creates a lot of free radicals from overproduction of stealing away the mitochondria's nutrients for energy production to be able to, fight off infection or deal with stressors. Now you have all of this excitotoxins with GABA or glutamate, aspartate, even homocysteine, even these dopamines. And when you have free radicals and excitotoxins together, they start to oxidize. And oxidation is just basically blowing everything up, blowing up your cell membranes, blowing up your red blood cells, blowing up your white blood cells, blowing up your platelets, and you have low white blood cells, low platelets, low red blood cells, and you're not producing oxygen and you're exhausted. The other one that I like right now is H2 Absorb. That's a really cool antioxidant that you can put in your water, and you got to be careful. You got to put the cap right back on, otherwise that oxidation will spill off. And especially for you guys that are exercising a lot, because if you're exercising a lot, you're producing a lot of free radicals on top of everything else, and your absorption levels are down, you're eating junky oils, you're eating crappy foods, you're not getting good minerals, your pH levels are down, and there's not enough antioxidants to balance out those free radicals. And now all of a sudden you get back to exercise and you think, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted after. I can't bounce back the way I used to, and exercise is so debilitating. It's because you don't have a good balance between free radicals and antioxidants, and that can really help you out a lot. The next thing I look at is categories, is cell membrane and cell energy. We talked a little bit about this already with the Bmax and with minerals. But other things that I really love that I've talked about before from a methylation standpoint is phosphatidylcholine. That's basically a fatty droplet for the membrane, and you're going to get that in your fish oils or your EPA, your DHA. But you got to be really careful, because when you go and buy a supplement and you save money and you buy it at Walgreens, look at the ingredients and you're reading things in there you can't even pronounce. And there's more of them than the actual ingredient that you're supposed to be taking. Cheap is expensive. If you're gonna buy cheapy, crappy stuff, don't buy it at all. You do yourself a favor. The reason I'm telling you this is because I care about you guys, and I want you to, make the right health choices. Because, I feel like one day bringing my camera into, a grocery store and reading through all the supplements and all the crappy stuff in there and thinking, what a ripoff. There's crappy stuff in here, natural flavors and stuff. Turmeric is great, and again, you can get turmeric in food. And again, that's what my mission is here too, is to really bring back the quality food that you could be eating, that you don't need your supplements as much. There was a study in 1980 comparing the soil's concentration to the soil concentration in 2005. And it was just off the charts how much worse they were in 2005 than they were in 1980. Our food quality is just so terrible. The next category that I look at are digestive enzymes. Most of you guys are not secreting any hydrochloric acid, and then you're going on proton pump inhibitors because you think you're secreting way too much stomach acid, and really you're not. You're secreting too much lactic acid, and that's creating a little rawness in your gut, and you think, oh, I got to take some antacids because it's giving me indigestion. But meanwhile, the reason why you have indigestion is because you don't have have enough stomach acid. It's creating lactic acid. It's rotting. It's rotting right there in your gut. And then the microbes and your ecosystem is being fed upon by pathogens and bacteria and molds and candida, and really, really gnarly, nasty stuff. There's some other really good supplements I can get into. Like nowadays they're talking about clays, and having clays with your water, because here's something interesting. You know, if you were a peanut butter eater at an early age, most of the peanuts, like in Jiffy and stuff like that, or I shouldn't say that word, in a J that ends with iffy or stuff like that, or anyways, anything that was cheap based, oils and with nuts, you could pretty much guarantee they were all moldy and a lot of mycotoxins on there, and those are still in your body, probably even accumulated even more because of injections, immunizations, other exposures to moldy foods. And so one of the great things, I didn't have it on here, I wasn't planning on doing it, and it's in my bag here, is this MediClay FX. And what you do, it's really, really cool, but what you would do is with each and every meal, you would open it up, put it in your water. I got a little water here, so I'm putting it in my water, and then you just sort of stir it up. I don't want to use my finger because that would be dirty, although that would give me good, resistance against germs. And then what I'm doing is I'm drinking that with every meal. About 8 ounces. You don't want to drink too much water because you want to use your own digestive juices. And what that will do is that will go with the transit of your foods and any chemotoxins that are on the foods, molds, in GMOs, MSGs, all that stuff will go there, and you'll be able to drink that with it, and that will help absorb that and get that out of your body. And you can't really taste it. But digestion is really, really huge. Digestive enzymes, hydrochloric acid is huge to be able to break down your foods. It sits there, it ferments, it creates permeability of leaky gut, then creates more reactivity to food pathogens. So now you're not only reacting to gluten, you're reacting to dairy and corn and egg and soy and rice and potato. So you need that hydrochloric acid to help you out. You want to try to have about 50% of your foods to be raw foods, and you want to be able to start off slowly. A lot of you with really weak stomachs can't handle that, but you want to lightly cook your foods, ferment your foods. Sauerkrauts, kefir, all those types of things can be really, really helpful for you. As well, not heating it up too high. Bile salts can be really supportive, as can digestive enzymes. And then that's where we get into the adrenal stuff. So you should be asking me right now, well, you didn't mention any adrenal stuff. And I started off by saying, well, I don't like to take this one for that and that one for this and this for those. The only way that I start to do that stuff is I know if you're in overwhelm, potentially adaptogens can be really, really supportive in the beginning. That would be like that painkiller or the stitches or, the triaging, where rhodiola, cordyceps, holy basil, stuff like that can be really, really supportive for you. When you start to get more licorice root or ginsengs or even hormonal stuff like DHEA or pregnenolone, I'm not going to start to do that until I at least look at your test and see where you're at, because you may be off the charts, and here I am only making you more off the charts. Plus I want to know what's going on with your thyroid. Is there some cellular level of hypothyroidism? Is there a lot of stress levels? A lot of that stuff. The other thing I forgot to mention, which was in the natural antioxidants, is vitamin E. Vitamin E is super, super important, as is vitamin A. And remember, if we're not absorbing our healthy fats, we don't have a gallbladder, you're not getting those key antioxidants that are super helpful. I have this one here. It's called Deltanol, and it's a really, really great supplement for vitamin E. The reason why I like PRL so much, I don't get any, I'm not endorsed by them, is that if you look, their mission statement was to not put any junk fillers in there. They have this basically this spectrometer that when any supplements came into, or raw materials, once living raw materials with a high cellular resonance came into their factory, which I did a tour of, they looked at the high quality of the nutrient, and if that, they basically gave it a fingerprint. And when that fingerprint wasn't at its normal fingerprint because the manufacturers decided to be shady or whatever it was, that mass spectrometer was able to detect that. Now you may ask, well, what about if it was junky from the beginning? Well, that's a good question, but they probably had a resonance of what the optimal frequencies should be, and then what they did was they paired that to the tissue or the gland or the system of the body that it was being used for, so that you would achieve coherence, so something would be supportive for all these different nutrients and all these different glandulars or all these different supplements. Now I don't like glandulars, animal glandulars, because they don't resonate at that same frequency, and it will never bring your energy levels up. When I said glandulars, I meant supporting supplements for glands. But targeted immune stuff would be like reishi mushroom, could be other things like what else, like hyssop, or olive root extract, stuff like that. But I'm not going to start with that because I want to know, hey, did you achieve a good pH? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to do it? And kind of go from there. So I rifled through that. I hope it was pleasing to you. A couple other things I like is glutathione. Again, natural glutathione. DHLA or alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10, NADH. I didn't mention NADH, but it's part of that. I think it is phase 1 of mitochondrial production of the electron transport chain. I really like the bioflavonoids with propolis and bee pollens, but you got to be careful because next thing you know, now you're on 15 different supplements and we're not lowering that stress footprint. So you got to triage. You really got to get it through your foods. You got to breathe healthy oxygen and do the things that you like to do. So anyways, let me see what kind of questions we have here. I know there's a lot of questions. I know you guys like me to try to answer them. Do you suggest testing for adrenal issues before starting adrenal supplements? Well, we kind of answered that, Jennifer, afterwards. All of these supplements, I would suggest you don't necessarily need to have adrenal testing for those, but once you start to get into the targeted immune or the targeted endocrine or the targeted system type of approach, I'd like to know what we're dealing with. And I'd like to know that right in the beginning, meaning kind of think of it like if I were to give you an antibiotic, I would just give you a broad spectrum antibiotic and then do a culture afterwards and figure out exactly what it is. And so I already got the ball rolling by giving you something before we did the test, and when the results came in, now we sort of targeted it to what the results were. Same thing with supplements. When you start a supplement, you can't go wrong with a good healthy oil. You can't go wrong with lowering your stress footprint. You can't go wrong with eating really good healthy foods. You can't go wrong with not cooking it to crazy temperatures. You can't go wrong with a lot of these basic, inflammatory antioxidant nutrients. But then once you get those adrenal testing, you could go wrong because you were doing pregnenolone and DHEA when you were already way off the charts, if that makes sense. Amber. Hey, Amber. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. Best magnesium for us, Joel? It's a good question. It depends. The glycinate is one that is told to be really good for helping with repairing the cell, detoxifying. I like the one from US Enzymes. It's called Krebszyme because it's in a nano form and it has a bunch of different forms for us to utilize. But one of the best supplements for magnesium repletion is getting off proton pump inhibitors because it depletes you of that. Where can I get that? I think I added that on there, Robin, already. Is that on your website? No, it's not on my website. It's on the, I'll put it again in the link here. I like salt and water. I don't have it now. I have this, and you got to make sure you stir it. So, but I have this clay in here. You can see it at the bottom there, and obviously I need to stir it a little bit better. Anyways, speaking of which, speaking of stirring, one of the things that I'm doing this year is I'm making sprouted, I bought a bunch of my own sprouting kit, and I'm gonna be honest, I really screwed up. I snafu'd the very first mix. So it took me 3 days to figure this out, so I'm not that smart of a guy. So what I did was, it said soak them in there for 12 hours. So I soaked them in there for 12 hours, and I watched the video, and then it said, okay, after you soak them, you could use that water for plants and stuff. Don't drain it, and then, or don't drain the water, use it for something else. Then I rinsed it really nicely, and then I thought you had to soak it again. And so after really drying, he stressed you have to dry it, and so I'm getting like a flashback of me having to dry my seeds here, and then dry it really good so there's no moisture coming off. And then by the third day, I realized, why am I filling it up with water again? Like, if I'm drying it, I have to dry it. And then like it hit me like, oh, you were only supposed to drain it once. So I went to watch the video, and I screwed up my first batch. I tried to soak it for 36 hours straight, and drying it only to soak it again. So now I'm on my second batch, and I only soaked it for the required time, the initial time, and I'll show you how those goes. But I think that's good. Sprouting your own vegetables is good. You're gonna get a lot of enzymes. Any foods that have enzymes in it is gonna help you digest it, and that's gonna be really good. Fermented foods are gonna help you do that. Healing the gut is the key. It really is. Oops, where did it go? PRL, is that the brand? Yes, that's a brand. It is American, but they do sell to the public. I'll look into that, Robin. We have to PM each other anyways, and I'll tell you how to do that. Pink salt. So what supplement do you recommend for hypothyroid? Again, that's one of those things, Rita, where you know, it's like, what supplement do you recommend is the magic bullet? And you know, again, there's so many things I would say to you, like, watch this video again, and what's your pH, and are you inflamed, and are you getting good quality nutrients? Because I'm not gonna be Jack and the Beanstalk and plant a seed and expect the pot of gold to be in there in the morning and give you that magic hypothyroid supplement. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. Do you like NAC? I do. I like glutathione better because NAC may not make it all the way down there. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that, Billy. I start the day with acidic range before I jump into 50 supplements. Should I try a good quality multivitamin? I think you should get off the 50 supplements, number one. And I would just start with a good quality meal, maybe a smoothie. And kind of go from there and tell me, you know, I think 50 supplements is too much. Bentonite clay, okay? I think so. I'm not an expert on clay. I think it has to be like a calcium type of thing, but I think it's okay. Am I on H2 receptor blocker? Are they as, I can't see the rest of it, Kathy. How do I find out how much you charge for phone consults? It's a free phone consult. It's 45 minutes, and it's just about getting to the truth. But I only do it for those that are serious, because I don't want you to waste my time, and I don't want to waste your time. And then I don't know how much I'm going to charge in terms of if you're going to be a good fit. What have you done? What have you not done? You know, what other tests may be required? Are you dealing with something that I feel I can help? All that type of stuff. And it doesn't say the end of it. Is it better to take them all at once over time, or certain ones together, supplementing after? And again, I don't know why it doesn't show me the whole thing. Sorry about that, Cassandra. Is it better to take them all over time or certain ones together? Some ones together, like I like the DHLA and the CoQ10 together. You know, I like the propolis and the pollen together. I like, you know, obviously the digestive enzymes together. So think of it in terms of systems. Do the systems together. Love growing sprouts. Well, maybe I can send you my sprouts. Foods to raise cortisol. Foods to raise cortisol. I mean, any fatty foods will raise cortisol because it's you know, it's a prerequisite, but it's not going to raise it right away. One of the things I was reading, which is very interesting, is the more food you eat, or the more trauma you go through, or the more stress you're under, the more your metabolism speeds up. because it has to break it down. And if you are already dealing with a lot of fires to put out already, then you're going to make more cortisol. So food in general is going to make more cortisol, especially if you're under stress. Appreciate your honesty. It is truly not a one-size-fits-all. You're right, it isn't. And that's it. So I hope you guys got a lot of value out of that. It was probably a little different than you had anticipated. I will put the links to, to be able to do the consultations. I really do feel that, the medical model is great when it comes to an acute injury, but when it comes to a chronic condition, heck, they're not even taught about nutrition in school, and there is no ability to patent nutrients. And it's not profitable for companies to make healthy foods if it cuts into their profit margins. So, I think that cheap is expensive, and you got to pick and choose, your investment dollars on your health. Because as you get older, even though, maybe the chronological age is going higher, and it really isn't. Our children and our children's children are not going to live as long as us. The quality of life is going down. And so do you want to be in a, invalid and in diapers and not remember your name and have pains and have amputations and be dependent on your family and not go out and not being able to walk and not being able to travel and not being able to enjoy the things in life that you've worked so hard for? I mean, really, you're putting an investment in now for a long-term solution. So anyways, I hope that was helpful for you guys. I got to run. Sorry, I can't answer your question. If I'm interested, one more question. If I'm interested in a phone call, so I've been on elimination diet since June 2nd. I'm taking supplements, but I'm waiting to get more from my food than supplements I'm wanting. Again, it doesn't, we got to call up Facebook and ask them, when you ask a question and you ask more than 3 lines, why doesn't it allow me to read the remaining portion? In taking supplements, but I'm wanting to get more from foods than supplements. That's all I got. Sorry about that, Jennifer. But what I'll do is I will post a link and then we can talk more about that in detail. All right. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Awesome, start to the new year, and you're looking to have awesome health going forward. All right. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful evening.